Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the workshop. Some of you, if you're joining in from Instagram, will already be very familiar with this environment. If you're new to the channel, welcome. So we've been implementing a very high-end, very fancy cedar fence for some clients out on site. Part of that job means building some gates to match, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's have a chat about how we're going to do it and what we're going to use. Right, we've got a pair of gates to make. So let's talk about how we're going to make them. Before we get going, this is how I've decided to make these gates. There's lots and lots of different ways to make gates. This is how we're going to do these ones. If you've got a different way, that's absolutely fine. There's a couple of things that these gates have to do. They have to be simple to construct and they have to be strong. So what we're going to do is make two frames with a central piece in and some cross braces in as well. This is going to be pressure treated softwood. It's redwood, so it's a good high quality kind of joinery grade kind of softwood. These are all going to be clad in cedar, so none of it is going to be seen. These joints here are going to be half lap joints, and we're going to use some expanding glue and some screws. As I said, it's all going to be hidden, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like, it just has to be strong. First thing to do is to make a cutting list, cut everything to length, then we can get the groove cutting machine out, which is a very exciting piece of kit, and start and form our half lap joints. So, dead simple. We're going to need 6 at 1035 and 4 at 1950. We'll worry about the cross braces later. We're going to get to the chop saw now and cross cut these to length. Right, that's all of our components cut down to final dimension, so we can have a look at these half lap joints. A half lap joint, in short, is the simple process of making two pieces of timber fit together flush. So we're going to take half the thickness of this one out and half the thickness of this one out, so that when they're glued and screwed together, they are on the same plane. It's dead easy. And to do that, we get to use a very, very cool piece of equipment, our Maffel groove cutting machine. So let's get that out. Okay, that's all the machining done with the notching machine, which I do very much enjoy using. So the next job is to have a trial fit. You can see now it should start to make a bit more sense. We've taken half of that one out and half of this one out, and that allows those to fit together nice and flush. So we're going to have a trial fit up, make sure everything's just nice and tidy. Then we can get some glue involved. We're going to be using this expanding glue, and we're going to use some screws as well. None of this is going to be seen, so the fact it doesn't look overly decorative is not a problem in this instance. It's one of the reasons why I've chosen to make the gates like this. So let's get on with the next chapter. So that's the frames glued and screwed together. You can see the expanding glue doing its thing. I'm not worried about the fact that you can see that currently. Like I've said, these frames are not decorative. They're going to be covered in cladding, which we'll get to later. The next job is to put the cross braces in, and it's at this point that the frames and the gates become handed. If you remember how I drew them on the whiteboard, that is the pattern of the cross braces. It's important that they start low on the hinge side and go up on an angle to the side where they meet. They are there to stop the gates sagging over time. They keep them square. The easiest way to mark them is to slide them underneath the frame, mark the angles and cut them on the chop saw, which we'll do now. And then we're going to fit them using pocket hole screws. More about that in a minute. So what you've just seen there is the way that we drill pocket holes. Essentially, it's a hole drilled at an angle designed to accommodate a screw that allows us to attach timber in this orientation from end grain to side grain. It's something that I've used for a lot of years and it works really, really well. We've added some expanding glue as well, just for good measure. I'm going to repeat that process on this one and then on the other gate frame as well. On the other gate frame, the cross braces will be going the other way, but that will come apparent when we start to clad the frames with our cedar cladding, which we'll be moving on to in just a minute. So that is the gate frames done. That's the structural element of this pair of gates finished. Cross braces going up from low to high, outside in. Now it's time to clad them. We're going to clad them in the same material that we clad the fence, which is Western red cedar. These pieces here. We saved these from whilst we were going through the process of cladding the fence. We saved all the long offcuts specifically for these gates. Now the clients asked that we clad the gates in the same orientation as the fence, which is horizontal. Often I would choose to clad gates vertically to give it a bit of a contrast, but in this instance we're going to do exactly what the client wants and clad them horizontally. We'll talk about the actual profile of these boards when we come to fit them, but we need to cut them all down to length. So we've got another session on the chop saw coming up now. Okay, a couple of side notes about this cedar cladding. It is tongue and groove in profile, but it's got quite a specific tongue and groove profile on it. It allows us to secret fix it, so the stainless steel screws that we're going to use to attach it to the gate won't be seen, apart from a couple at the bottom of the first course and a couple at the top of the final course. That's all you're going to see. It also has a shadow detail, so when these boards slot together, you can see there's a gap, but it kind of isn't a gap, it's just part of the profile, and it casts a very decorative, neat, modern shadow detail. One of the specific reasons why I chose it for this project. So that is the workshop chapter of these gates done. Frames made, glued, screwed, boarded both sides and ready to hang. There is a capping detail to go across the top to finish off where you can still see the frame. It's the same story out on site where we've been building this fence. We're going to do that after they're hung so that it all matches. There's some stainless steel hook and band hinges to fit. We're going to do those on site as well. And once they're on and the gates are hanging, that is this job finished. So we're out on site now. First gate is on the trestles over there, but this should now start to make a bit more sense. This is the fence that we've been building for the last few days. The cladding is the same as the gates, obviously, Western red cedar, secret fix, tongue and groove. Looks beautiful. We've been putting the capping detail on the top, which is what we're going to replicate on the top of the gates once they are hung. We're going to put the hinges on now, so let's go and talk about them. So these are the hinges that we like using to hang our gates in people's gardens. They're called adjustable hook and bands, and they work on a threaded bar system. So the hinge, which will be screwed and bolted to the gate, hangs on this hook, which in turn will be mounted on the post, and it allows the gate to slide left and right laterally. It just means that we can fine-tune the exact position of the gate, and over time, as timber gates move, and they do move, it means you can revisit them, or our clients can revisit them and tweak them and tune them back just to how they want them. We've used a lot of these over the years. These are stainless steel ones, which is important because they're getting mounted directly onto cedar. So we're going to drill, bolt and screw these now, and then pop the gates on the posts and do a bit of tuning. So what we've just spent the last 20 minutes or so doing after we've hung our gates on the plates which are screwed to the posts is using that threaded bar mechanism in each corner to fine-tune where these gates sit within this opening, making sure that we've got a gap in the middle that allows the gates to open and a detailed gap down the edge just to allow for a bit of movement. What's better than that is that all the lines line up, and it's that we were really aiming for. So I'll be honest, I'm a bit relieved. So that brings these gates to a finish. We've fitted a centre lat on the front and 2 stop lats on the back. There's no furniture on the front. Our clients requested that these were operational only from one side, which is the far side. So we've fitted 2 drop bolts, which in the fullness of time will drop into a hole in the patio. There is a team of ground workers coming to extend the patio behind and address the levels out here. But that's kind of an overview of how we've chosen to make these gates. Like I said before, there's a multitude of different ways of doing it. This style suited this project, and these clients suited their budget and ticks all of the boxes that they asked us to tick. So we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.